Once again, want to welcome everyone to Step of Faith Financial Stewardship, Session 2. We thank everyone for coming out on today, and we pray that the Lord will enrich us the more. Last week, we had a very good lesson on basically financial stewardship, and I just want to do a recap, a review on the what we talked about. And if the first thing I want to talk about is last week we talked about it all belongs to who. So if I can get someone to come up and tell me who it all belongs to.
God is the owner of everything.
Amen. So we found out last week that it all belongs to God. Okay, He was the creator of it all. And we learned about the 10%, we learned about the 90%, and we learned how 90 was greater than the 10. So it's even greater responsibility that we be good stewards over the 90%, which is what is left over after we pay our tithes. And also last week we learned about health stewardship. So if someone from the class can come up and give me an example of health stewardship.
Health stewardship is taking care of our body, eating right, and exercising.
Amen, amen. And we learned that it's very important that we take care of our bodies, so it will also help us on our medical bills, because we won't be in the hospital a lot. We won't be seen getting different x-rays and different things done. So God's given us responsibility to take care of our body, so it's also important. So when we're talking about financial stewardship, we're also talking about our health. And then there's another one that we talked about was environmental stewardship. Can someone from the class come up and give me an example of environmental stewardship?
Environmental stewardship is like conserving energy, making sure you're making the best out of your resources, where you limit resources and let things go a little bit further.
Okay, hear that? And we have a lot of resources now that we see in the environment that are diminishing, or meaning that there's not as much of it as it used to be, because what? We wasn't good stewards over those resources that the Lord has put on this earth, which would be wasteful. Okay, so if we would have been more responsible over those environmental resources, they may not be as diminishing, and things wouldn't be as high right now. Anytime there's a lack of something, the price of it goes up. And I believe the last one that we talked about was economic stewardship. So can someone from the class give me a definition or something on economic stewardship?
Economic stewardship would be looking for the best deals, best quality at the best price, and just managing your money.
Amen, amen. And last week, I want to bring up one point that my dear friend, Brother John, made to me after class. And just because something is cheaper, this could be a misconception on last week, but I want to touch a little bit on it before we come into this lesson. Just because something is cheaper doesn't necessarily mean that it's better, okay? And for example, I bought some bread, and it was cheaper, but it didn't last as long. It got mold on it within like 2 or 3 days. So last week we was talking about, trying to find the best deal, for our money. And Brother John gave a excellent example on butter. He bought one butter, was cheaper, but it didn't have any natural ingredients in it at all. It was all preservatives, and it wasn't good for your body. So, but what I want to tell you, just in case if there was a misconception on last week's lesson, that just because it's cheaper doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. Okay, so we can shop around and we will look for the best deal, but don't let your quality lack to find the best deal. Okay, so because therefore you find yourself, if you have some bread You buy some bread and it's cheaper, but it only lasts 1 or 2 days, and you have to throw half of it away, or they get moldy at the end. You're not really saving money. Why? Because you have to go out and buy another loaf to replace the one that you threw away. So if you spend a little extra money and get a better quality, it will last longer. It's healthier for you, okay? And yes, you may spend a little more money, but that would be wiser than trying to buy something that's cheaper, okay? So I just want to just inform everyone on that last week, just in case if I may have misled you, that just because it's cheaper. Now I do want you to shop around, try to find the best deal, but don't let your quality lack to do so, okay? And you see that all the time in the grocery store, where you may find something on sale, okay, and you say, okay, well, this is a good deal, but you may have to eat it that day. That's it. You know, manager special, and it's marked down. And if you can come up to the microphone, she has sister. I'm gonna pass this to her. Go ahead, pass it. Just great.
Okay, I was just saying, that's the way it is with dishwashing liquid. You can get it in it'd be cheaper, but sometimes it don't last as long as there's one that's higher price. So that's why I usually do. I get the higher price one than getting the cheaper one, because the cheaper one usually you got to use more of it.
That's right. So that just kind of sums up that. So in thinking, and last week, in thinking about, you're spending, yes, it all belongs to God, and we want to get the best deal for our money, but also think about the quality, of it, because if it is better quality, it will go longer. It will go a longer ways. You won't have to use as much of it, and therefore, in time, in the beginning, it may not seem like you're saving money, but in the end, you are saving money, because you're not having to throw nothing away, or it may last a little bit longer. So you think, because even like she said, with the dishwashing liquid, if it's a better grade, you don't have to use as much. You get the cheap stuff, you got to fill the cup up maybe twice, and your clothes still don't seem like they're as clean. But you get some high strength good detergent, it costs more, but you may only use half of a cup. And so those are things to be thinking about. So don't just say, Mr. Thornton said we need to get the cheaper, so you buy the 97-cent detergent, and you're buying the cheap butter and the cheap eggs, and your stuff spoiling and rotting, and say, well, I'm doing what Mr. Thornton said to do. No, we still have to use wisdom, okay, with it. Now that don't go in all cases, because some cases you can, get the cheaper grade, and it may be the same quality or maybe a little better, but just have to be wise and ask God to help us. And that's why I gave the scripture verse last week: in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall or he will direct your paths. So we're acknowledging the Lord, and we're asking the Lord to help us, and he's going to help us to make those good decisions, those good purchases on becoming financial stewards over everything the Lord's blessed us with. Amen. So on today, lesson will be on page 2. We're going to be talking about debt today. Okay, and that word debt is a lot of times is what we encounter if we're not good stewards over what the Lord's blessed us with. We find ourselves going into debt. And sometimes our emotional spending and our emotional splurges are all done because of debt. We feel we have to have this. We feel we need this. But today I just kind of we're going to talk about, if you do have a lot of debts, this may not be pertain to you on today, but if you do have a lot of debts, we're going to talk about ways that we can get out of debt. And we're going to talk about, why debt is so bad. We're going to talk a little bit about the interest rates and how much money you pay for something because you can't wait or you don't have enough funds to buy it at this time. And also, too, I want to talk a little bit about not all going into debt is sometimes you have to do it to establish credit. So, there's pros and cons on it, but some people ask me, what's your views on credit cards? And I tell people, if you can't handle it, don't get one. You might have to find another means to establish credit so you don't ruin your credit history before you even get one established. Because if you think about it, yes, the money is available to you, but you still have to be responsible over it, and you can't just go crazy and go wild and buy anything and everything you want and just live how you want to live and thinking that everything's okay now, because a credit card in the long term will cost you a whole lot of money if you look at the numbers of the interest rates. Now, there is some out there that's good, and there's some, we're going to talk about that in class, but the main thing I want to talk about is the debt that is caused behind a credit card. First begin reading myth Is this true or false? Only the rich can be debt free. False. Okay. So we can be debt free, whether you're middle class, low class, high end class, you can be debt free. Okay. And then second one says, is this true or false? Anyone can become debt free. True debt reduction is plain common sense and hard work. Is that true or false? True. Okay. So anyone in this room right now can be debt free. There's no limits. There's no statute. There's no reason on why you cannot become debt free. So therefore, we just have to figure out what it is that we have to do. Okay. So the plan that we mostly hear from is called the debt snowball effect. And that's one plan that we use to pay off our debts. And if I can have Sister Tamika read that first paragraph for me.
Pay off all debt using the debt snowball. List your debts, excluding the house, in order. The smallest balance should be your number one priority. Don't worry about interest rates unless two debts have similar payoffs. If that's the case, then list a higher interest rate debt first.
Okay, so for those of you that have debts more than one, what you want to do is make a list of them, okay? And you want to list them from the smallest one to the greatest one, okay? And this is going to allow for us, by writing it down on paper, allows for you to actually see where your money's going on the debt, okay? Because a lot of times you don't really realize, because you think about, you may have $25 here, you may have $15 on this card, you might have, 30 on this one. And those numbers start adding up. So that's why you need to visually write them down on paper, okay, from the smallest to the largest. Okay, and debts could be a car note, okay? Debt could be, debt that you owe on a refrigerator, on a couch, on anything that you bought that you didn't have the money to buy at the time. That's considered a debt, okay? Even like me, I know on this paper it does say don't list your house, but I list my house because that's a debt. I ain't got it paid for it. I'm paying on it, and the bank didn't give it to me for free, so it's still a debt. That would be the greatest one, the one at the top, okay? A lot of times, you need a place to stay. You need a nice transportation, so you do, and you may not have $30,000 or $40,000 to pay at the beginning. So what? You have to get financed, and I'm not against that. But what I'm saying is, you need to physically see it, okay, and list it, and then you have some other ones that tack on there because we want to live nice. We want to have a nice home. We want to have we want to have clothes, and we want to have a nice place that we can come home to after a hard day of work, right? But just because we want these things doesn't mean we have to go into debt to achieve or accomplish these things. We need to be good stewards. Yeah. So this is designed to help those that are in debt and their debt may be out of control. Because see, what I found a lot of times is when one is in debt, they don't stop. Okay, you're in debt and you have your situation is out of control, but you don't stop spending or buying more things. You continue to spend. And these little small bills, they add up at the end of the month. When you was doing the purchase, you was thinking, oh, it's only $15 a month. Oh, it's only $20 a month. I can handle that. But you got 120 here, and you got another 20 here, you got another 15 here. All those start to add up. And then you see pieces of your check coming out before you even know it. So what we do is we're going to list your smallest to largest, okay? And so you take that small one, and you want to work on paying that one off first. Okay, this says don't worry about your interest rates. Okay, so you may think, well, if I this one has a greater interest rate, so if I pay this one off, I can save more. Don't worry about all that. We're going to start on the smallest one first. Okay, so say you have a 25 and a 50 and a 170 and a 200 and a 610. I'm just throwing some numbers out there. Okay, so we're going to start with that 25 first, and we're going to work on paying that off. Okay, we want to get that one paid off, and then what you do is that 25 that you used to spend on that debt, you take that same amount and put it on the one next to it, okay? And what this does, after you pay that first one off, you're going to feel good about yourself, and it's going to give you the confidence to work on the next one and the next one and the next one. That's why they call it, I don't know if you guys have ever played in the snow, but if you've played in the snow, you start with a little bitty ball, okay? I'm taking y'all back probably. And if you roll it, the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's what we do with your debt, okay? But you got to work with that little one. Seems like, man, it's so hard to get started. It's so much work you got to put into it. But once you get started, and the rolling is easy. So we have to start somewhere on the debt, okay? And starting with that small to get that one paid off, and then you take that, and that's the momentum that you need to do the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and then next thing you know, you done maybe knocked off 2 or 3 of them, okay? And this is what is going to allow for us to be able to become debt free. You know, we seen the Dave Ramsey clip, and he said, you know, imagine to be debt free, and the only thing you have to pay is your mortgage. But me, I like to think beyond that, and I said I like to only have to pay water bill and utility bill. You know, that's where I want to be, okay? And that way, when you know, I mean, it's a great imagination to know that one day you get your paycheck, and you ain't paying nobody nothing. It's all yours. Yes, I'm talking about we got to pay, you know, our tithes, but it's going to be good to come to a point to where if you want to spend $500 on something, you can. It ain't going to hurt you one bit because you don't owe nobody else nothing. Okay? The only people that's getting rich in today's time is the debt collectors and the financial institutions, and all because we make not good decisions with our money. Okay? So we talked about last week about shopping around trying to find the best deal for our money, and sometimes you do need to wait. You know, there's times whenever we move outside the will of the God and we don't wait because our emotions are flaring up and we want it now, and we pay the consequence for it. There's no around. You can't say that God wasn't with me and I wish God can get me out of it. You got yourself into this because you couldn't wait. There was a better deal down the line. It's happened to me several times where I didn't want to wait, and I'm like, man, now I'm paying the consequences of it. Okay? But it doesn't have to be that way. And if you have made that decision, you have made that mistake, there is a way out. There is a way out. That's one thing I like about the Lord. He never leaves us by ourselves. He always shows us, yes, he has us to bump our heads, and yes, he teaches us and says, hey, you know, you messed up, son. But what I love about the Lord is he always picks us up, he dusts us off, and sends us back on our way and lets us know, son, you know, just don't make that mistake again. Okay? But we don't want to continue making the same mistakes. So if Sister Tamika, you can read the second paragraph.
The point of the debt snowball is simply this. You need some quick wins in order to stay pumped up about getting out of debt. Paying off debt is not always about math. It's about motivation. Personal finance is 20% head knowledge and 80% behavior. When you start knocking off the easier debts, you will see results and you will stay motivated to dump your debt.
Okay, so we see there the personal finance is 20% head knowledge, okay, and 80% behavior knowledge. Now, last week we talked about numbers, and we're going to do it again this week. Which is greater, the 20% or the 80%? The 80%. And what did the 80% reflect? Your what?
Behavior.
Your behavior. So right now, I'm working on the 20%. I'm trying to give you guys some knowledge, giving you some, pumping you guys up. But it's your behavior, it's your actions after this is what's going to be the key to your success. Okay, because I can tell you all you want, you know, hey, you know, you need to get out of debt, and, you know, let's use the debt snowball effect, and let's build on this, and let's get these debts knocked out. And you say, oh, I hear you, man, Shadon, I hear you, that sounds good. And then tomorrow you go out and you buy something else that you don't have money for. That's your behavior. Okay, so the behavior is what we have to work at. Like I told you before, a lot of the spendings that we do are emotional. They're driven by our emotions. It's how we're feeling at the time when we make this purchase. You know, I was talking to my supervisor, and his truck was like a 2012, you know, and he went out, and first he told him no, he didn't want it. I told him no, you don't need to get a new truck. You know, just ain't nothing wrong with the one you got. You know, 2012. He goes and buys a 2013, and it's white, you know, and it's got all this stuff. But I told him, I said, it looks like the other one. It looks exactly the same. And some people don't realize, like Chevy, like their body style, like if you can buy a 2000 and like even 2005, it still look the same, you know? So your emotions at the time, are you just buying this because it's new? Or you sometimes you need to take a deeper thought into why are you having these compulsive spending urges? What is it that's causing it? Are you unhappy? Do you think this is going to make you happy? Do you think this is something that's going to bring you joy? You know, because like he said, a lot of this is behavioral. Okay, so sometimes to get your debts or get your spending habits, get them under control, we need to examine ourselves. Why do I buy these 6 or 7 pairs of shoes? I already have 10. Why do I need 6 more? What is it? What is it? What is it? Okay, what is it? Okay, so this is homework for yourself that you have to, sometimes when you get out of this class and you leave, think about, why do I buy the things I buy? Why do I get the things I get? What's causing me to do it? He said he was older, and he wanted something. Yes, I interviewed him. And he said he felt he wanted something nice. His house is paid for, and he just wanted something nice. But I'm still thinking like, man, that was $40,000 for a brand new truck. And his other truck, to me, nothing was wrong with it. I asked him, I said, what was wrong with the old one? He said, well, it had a little chip in the windshield, and someone dinged my door at the restaurant or something. I had a little scratch in the rear fender. That was all he could give me. And he said, in the winter's coming, I'm probably going to need to get some new tires and all that. I was adding like chip in the windshield, scratch here, new tires, $40,000. I'm adding it in my head. But the thing about it is, I told him, I said, that window can get chipped. Your paint can still get dinged, and you're still going to need some new tires. So, so you really just did it because you think it's going to make you happy. Okay? And if that's his reasoning behind it, that's okay. But I'm just looking at it, his situation is different than a lot of people. Yes, his house is paid for. So, if he wants to have a $40,000 vehicle, that's his house. No, that's okay. But sometimes we make decisions and we don't need it, okay, at the time. And it creates a bind for us later on down the road because things may come up like they always do. Unexpected things come up that cost money, and you looking back, man, if I didn't have this truck note, if I didn't have this car note, if I didn't have this couch, if I didn't have this bill so high, this wouldn't be a hard time for me right now. But because things was going good at the time, and you made an emotional decision to buy something that you couldn't afford, and now something broke down, and you're looking like you're scratching for change, or man, I'm going to get this paid. Well, that's because you didn't think about that when you bought that item that costs so much money, okay? And we want to work always on, getting the best for our money, always, okay? And yes, waiting hurts, and yes, waiting is, man, why I work hard I should be able to have something nice. Yes, that is true, but sometimes better is around the corner. If we can just wait maybe even an hour, if we can wait a day, if we can wait a week, if we can wait a month, the same deal. There's been many times where I be like, man, I need to get this. I want this now. And I say, I feel the Lord telling me to wait. Yeah. And I wait. And sometimes I don't even get it. I don't even want it now. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes the Lord shows me a better deal. And then sometimes I give in and I get it anyway. But what I'm working on is trying to control whenever I know this is something I want, I don't need, it's just something I want. And I'm trying to work on myself as being able to control that urge and say, yeah, not right now, or maybe next time. And if you can produce and always have a good positive response to it, instead of buying that dress, maybe go get a cookie. instead, find something to replace that urge that's going, because sometimes we want to go to the mall and you're like, man, I know I ain't got no money, but it don't cost nothing to go look. You can still have a good time, and after you get done, stick a quarter in that ice Mike and Ike's machine, get your handful and chew on them. And that was your spending for the day. It only cost you a quarter, and you fulfilled the urge that you need, and you passed all of the deals and everything up. You spent something. It don't always got to be a lot. So find what it is. Now, this is what works for me. I don't know what works for you, but you need to find what it is that can conquer the uncontrollable spending habits that may cause you to have debt. That's all I'm saying today, okay? And once you do that, this will work, and it builds courage and momentum to get you over that hurdle. And then you'll find yourself with a little bit of money left over. A little bit of money, because if you go into the store and if you spend that 20, the rest of it's gone real quick. But if you can keep that 20 together, you do a little bit better. I didn't understand that until I actually did it. Because people used to say, hey, if you spend that 20, it's gonna be gone. I said, what do you mean? Why would it be gone for? I'm only gonna spend $1, but it does go pretty quick once you break it. So the thing about it is, when you go into the stores, you go into different things, and you know that now I'm talking about wants, I ain't talking about needs, okay? But there's some things that you want, and you've been working hard and you talking yourself up onto it. Try to find other alternatives to encourage yourself that you don't need this, or to wait, or encourage yourself. And that way, that 20 that you was thinking about spending, or that 15, you still have it at the end of the week. And then next week you do the same thing again, and the next week again and again, and now here it is 3 or 4 months down the road, and you have some money saved. All right, as she's whispering, it's on sale. It's on sale now. And because you didn't buy it at full price, and the Lord says, because the Lord works like this. He says, son, my daughter, because you listened to me and you trusted in me, there's going to be a 50% off sale with additional 20% off. And my son, my daughter, guess what? You are invited to come. And that item that you was looking for is there. And guess what? Something else is beside it.
That's my size.
And she said it is beautiful. Okay, so what got, and it works. It does work like that. It does work like that. And what ends up happening is you was good stewards over it. The Lord blessed it to you, but you got it at wholesale. Or sometimes you get it at such a low markdown, it ain't even. It's like giveaway. It's like, man, I can get 2 of them. You know what I mean? So sometimes, and as the pastor spoke a message not too long ago, it's worth the wait.
Yes.
It's worth the wait. It is worth the wait. If you're gonna save $40 or $50 on it, it's worth it. It's worth it. And if you can start collecting on those, so say you save 30 on this one, and you save 40 on this one, and you save 60 on this one, those numbers add up. Because if you can't wait and you spend and you buy it at the top dollar, it's really expensive. And I always watch the stores, and I go, because I do shop, and I look around, but I always find myself finding the same thing marked down a month later or 2 later. Now, it may only be one of them left, but if it's marked down, you might be able to make it work, or you might be able to find something else that you wasn't even looking at because you knew it was high. You said, oh, I can't afford that. That's way too high. And then you come around, and that thing that you thought you couldn't afford, now you can't afford it because it's marked down, because you was waiting on it. So that's also the Lord giving us the desires of our hearts, because sometimes we thinking like, man, Lord, you know my heart. Lord, you know my wants. He does know them. He does. And what he wants us to do is he wants us to be able to trust in him, that he's going to bless us with those desires and with those wants. But it's behavior that we have to get under control. So our behavior. Okay, so I have a little, now we're going to turn, did everyone get one of these? We don't really have time to work the problems out. I'm just going to do an overview on them. If you want to work them out at home, you can. Just everyone, if you don't have one, you might look at your neighbor. Here's I got one. But these are all different scenarios that you can read on your own, do the math of it on your own. I was going over and like, man, this is a whole lot. I want to have something that we can actually do together in class, but it actually takes a lot of numbers and stuff to get this stuff together. And I'm like, man, it's crazy. But scenario 1, if I can have Sister Tamika read that for me.
Jacob wants to buy a laptop for $650 and pay for it using a credit card that has an annual percentage rate of 19.85%. If Jacob pays the minimum monthly payment of $21.45, it will take him blank months to pay for the laptop.
Okay, so scenario 1, Jacob, he wants to buy a laptop. Now, every time we see on these scenarios, there's always an interest rate on there. And talking about interest rates, this is an annual interest rate, but sometimes they can be monthly, whatever. But so this is a 19.85% that he's going to pay every time his balance is not paid off. Okay, so this is a $650 purchase. He's going to be charged 19.85% interest every year on that balance that's on that card. Okay, so the answer for this, how many months it's going to take him, is going to be 43 months for him to pay that balance off. Okay, 43 months on a $650 purchase. Okay. And this is what I'm telling you, how like financial institutions are becoming rich. Everyone's pushing the cards now. You know, get this card, get this card, get this card. Take all your cards and pile them up on this card. But you got to really pay attention to the interest rates, the APRs, the different charges that are behind, late fees, different things that's behind there, because a lot of your money is tied up in there, and that's why they're able to push these cards. Okay, so scenario 2, Sister Tamika.
Jacob wants to buy a laptop for $650 and pay for it using a card that has an annual percentage rate of 19.85%. If Jacob pays the minimum monthly payment of $21.45, then the total amount Jacob will pay for the laptop will be blank.
Okay, so whenever you get your statement in the mail, they normally give you a minimum balance. Like, hey, you know, I know your purchase is this much, but if you just pay this minimum amount, you know, you'll be okay with us. You know, we won't charge you late or nothing. So I did the math here, and the answer is $909.54 for a $650 purchase. $909.54. That's how much he's going to pay if he pays the minimum amount for those 43 months at $21.45 per month at an interest rate of 19.85%. And I've seen some interest rates higher than that. I've seen some at 20%, 25, 26%. They get up there pretty high. And if you have real bad credit, you have even a lot of times even a higher interest rate. Okay. And so you got to look at it now before you make this purchase, before you decide this is a good deal. I know you may need a laptop, but you got to look at this. Okay, they're selling to you at $650, but if you use your credit card to get it, it's going to be $909. That's what a lot of times we don't comprehend. We don't look at that. So we look at, I only got to pay $21.45 and I'll have my laptop. Okay, but look how long you're going to pay on that, and look how much you're going to end up paying for that laptop now, since you can't wait, or since you can't afford it at that time. You got to take that into consideration. Okay. Scenario 4, Sister Tamika. 3. Sorry.
Jacob wants to buy a laptop for $650 and pay for it using a credit card that has an annual percentage rate of 19.85%. If Jacob pays the minimum monthly payment of $21.45, then Jacob's total cost of using the credit card will be blank.
Okay, and after doing the math on that, that was $259.54, which is the difference between $904 and $650. So who made that $259.54? The credit card company. That's only on one purchase. Okay. So they don't mind loaning to you. They don't mind loaning to you because look how much money they're gonna get just from loaning it to you. Okay. So that's how much extra you're gonna pay for that laptop that was on the shelf for $650. And then the last scenario there, Sister Tamika.
Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob wants to buy a laptop for $650 and pay for it using a credit card that has an annual percentage rate of 19.85%. If Jacob makes monthly payments of $60, then it will take him blank months to pay off the laptop.
Okay, and doing the math on that, it was like 12.98, 13 months to pay that off, which is, and that's, he increased his minimum payment from $21.45 to $60, but he still is going to be charged finances on that. Okay, so basically, anytime that you can't pay for it right up front, and you're going to have to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, you're going to be charged the interest on that. Okay, so the only thing that I want to talk about is be careful, be wise of those high interest rates, and see if you can take opportunity. They do have a lot of plans out there that I like to take advantage of. They may give you like 18 or 24 months or maybe 36 months, no interest, 100% financing during this time, okay? But this is the only thing that you have to be careful on. If you pay the minimum balance, the amount that you are charged will not be paid off in your time of your 36 or 18 or 24 month, and then you have to pay the interest over all those times at one time. So what I like to do is, that's what I'm telling you guys, if you can find those deals, where you can get no interest, 100% financing, and what you want to do is either have a plan that when your last payment is due that you're going to pay that full balance off, and you need to call them and ask them, what is my full balance? What is my payoff? So if I pay it today, I'm not going to owe you guys the interest. Or you can do the math, and if you can take the amount that you're being paid and divide it by how many months that they're charging it to you, and then it's going to give you a number, and you pay that amount every month, the balance will be paid off in full with no interest occurred, okay? Does everyone understand that? Try to make it as clear as I could because we've got to wrap up. But if you have to do those purchases first before you use a credit card and be charged 18, 19, 20% interest rate on the purchase, see if they have, do you guys have 100% financing with 100%, 0% interest rate on there? Do you have something like that? Now, sometimes your purchase may have to qualify to get that. If you don't spend enough, you may not qualify. But ask for it, okay? And if you do, you can make your payments every month and not be charged any extra on the payment, on the purchase that you're making, okay? But it's very important that you stick to that payment and don't pay any short, or you have a plan that at the end of the 18 or 24 months, however long they're financing for you, that you have a plan to pay that off. And I'm telling you now, you need to call and ask them, what is your payoff amount? Because if you don't call them and you just assume, okay, well, this is all I should owe them, and you send that to them, you can be 1 penny short, and they will try to charge you all that interest just from a penny, okay? So it's very important. So those are the two things that I want everyone to realize. And as I close, we're going to get out of debt, okay?
Yes.
We're going to be
Amen.
debt-free,
Amen.
okay? And we're going to use the debt snowball effect, amen? And I may not be speaking to everybody, but if this is speaking to you, you can do it. And just think of that snowball as you're canceling that debt. It's going to start off real small, but it's going to get real big. And the last thing I want to say as we end our session on today, we want to get to the point where the only bills we have coming into our house is our water bill and our heat bill and our food bill. That's my goal. Amen. And I don't know how long it's going to take me to reach it, but that is my goal. And I want to be able to be debt free. I don't want to owe the bank nobody. I don't want to owe nobody nothing. All I want to be able to do is have to get my bills coming to my mailbox. It's my heat bill, my water bill, and then I eat what I want. Okay. So I hope everyone got something out of the lesson. We're closing this session out.